Welcome back. Thank you for joining me on the final episode of the series on transformation and trust. This episode titled "The World is Your Oyster." This has been such a trip coming through this whole experience of discussing my own sort of ride through transformation, what I've learned, what can be gleaned, what maybe I have to offer that could help anyone listening to this who's going through their own transformation and wondering if at any point what they're going through is ever going to end, if it's normal, if it's okay, if they're going to be okay. This is an archetypal journey, so I believe that many of us go through it, although it may look different. It will look different. It's individual to every single person. But there are some things along the way that have stood out to me that have been helpful for me to know. And I feel like those aspects offer a little bit of light to other people who are maybe walking the path as well. And so a few things that I want to mention right off the top is that change is already happening here on Earth. Change is sort of part of the deal. When you come here, you know that nothing stays the same forever. Things are changing. We know this in part because we see it in nature. Nothing is sort of halted and not growing. So we see natural cycles all around us, and we get to sort of lean into and trust that the nature of life itself is cyclical and changing. So given that we're here at this time, we might as well partner with the flow that is already taking place. We might as well move with the current or hop on the wave that is already happening. And so really what that asked of me was to connect to my intuition deeper, to really trust everything that was unfolding for me and trust myself to navigate the unfoldment. And when I couldn't necessarily navigate it with clarity, surrender into the aspect that it is all part of the order of things, that it is all unfolding anyway, so that in the moments that I couldn't see what to do, there really wasn't anything for me to do, that I could lean into being deeper. And so I called it in this series a connection to intuition. And I want to say that language helps people and it helps me, but there's a deeper meaning, or there's a deeper knowing that we're already always connected to these aspects. It's just at some point we might divert our focus, or we might forget that we are connected to them. And so part of the journey is also to continuously remember who we are, remember what we are, remember why we came here, and sort of remember the basic fundamentals, that things are always changing, that we can lean into the trust of that even though our outward circumstance might be looking a certain way, that ultimately it's all happening, this unfoldment is all happening as it should, and that there's nothing wrong with the shifting and the changing, even though it feels uncomfortable at times. And so, I don't know if you guys can hear that. I've got a little bug that's at my window, and the door's wide open beside him. So as I'm saying, we're already connected to our intuition, and we're already evolving. Like evolution is already happening as well. So when you look at it from that huge, high, big, broad perspective, there is literally nothing to force and nothing to do in the sense of like feverishly, I haven't done it right, I need to get on it. Like that type of language I was so used to living in. But this perspective that I've been able to grow into was that, yes, on a very human level, yes, you can feel like there's a rush to get somewhere, there's things to do or places to be. And then yet on another level, it is all okay. and that it's all going to move forward anyway. And you're basically going like it or not. And actually, discord or tension happens when we are going down the river and we decide to hold on to a rock, and we're being pulled by the current to let go and to keep flowing. And so this whole series has reminded me about this, starting with the intentional evolution, the whole premise behind it. We're transforming anyways. So why not, be intentional about it? But not only that, we have the gift, if you're noticing your transformation instead of being swept up by it or pulled by it or having it feel like it's knocking at your door and busting through the door, then it's a really beautiful time because you're consciously evolving. You're aware of it. You're awake to it. And so I think when that happens, in the beginning, we get a little spooked or freaked, but at the same time, we have this beautiful opportunity to evolve with ourselves and to be aware of it in new ways and to notice the nuance of it, and not so that we can judge or make it fit a mold or force it to look like one thing or another or speed it up or attempt to make it happen or attempt to make it finish quicker than it is meant to, but more so that we can watch the beauty of it, like noticing the blooming of a flower, noticing that a certain plant in your garden is finally blooming. It's a wonderful thing. It's not that you're going to go out there and criticize how the bloom is happening, but it's beautiful to have your awareness brought to it, because if you didn't get to see it, then you wouldn't get to see it. So remembering to trust the process and lighten up around it can make it a little more fun. Ease into trusting ourselves and trusting the process. That has been huge for me, and learning how to nurture my positivity and nurture my optimism and nurture that voice that says it's all okay. It's all going to be okay. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't like it, even when you'd prefer to be feeling something else, you're still going to be okay. You can handle it. You may not want to handle it. You may not like handling it, but you can handle it. And with time, things get revealed. Maybe it's less painful. Sometimes if we really dig into a story and hold on to it, like holding onto that boulder on the side of the river, with time, stories can be more painful because we've rehearsed them and retold them and recommitted to them and, renewed our vows to that story. But generally, I think if we unclench and we loosen up and lighten up, we realize that things aren't as tense or painful or hot as maybe we thought they were. And remembering something, we can let the pressure off because we're not actually physically going through it. We're just remembering it. So remind ourselves it doesn't have to hurt as much. But I think when we try to swim against nature or try to resist change, it is futile. And you already have what you need inside you. You're already equipped to deal with change. Like, just by virtue of being here, we are adaptive. We're an adaptive species. We're already equipped to handle change. We look around in nature, everything's already equipped to be here. What starts as a seed or an acorn turns into an oak tree. What starts as a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. What starts as a sperm and an egg and starts as and then ends up a fetus, and then, a baby grows into a whole human being that has the ability to grow their own children and then more children. And you could have, next thing you know, 20 people stemming from your grandparents when you think about it. I mean, we all come from somewhere when we zoom out that level, but really it's an incredible thing to really just sit and think about. So try to remember that we have what we need inside us, and we have what we need to be able to shift. We have what we need to be able to adapt. That's already part of our nature. And hopefully that lightens the load a little bit. And so part of what's helped me release and relax into this was the acceptance of all my past parts, to really bring them into the fold of the tapestry of who I am, to not cringe over past versions, to see them as exactly what they were meant to be, and not just in the way of like exactly what they were meant to be to get me here, because that's something I've noticed is focusing on the supremacy of the next thing, in that, oh, well, it's only valuable if it got me here. But it's valuable for the sake of the sake of the fact that it's valuable. And so embracing all those past parts and folding them into the tapestry and unifying myself in that, unifying all aspects of myself, unifying myself inside, has really helped me hold a perspective that it's all okay. There's not one aspect of me judging another aspect of me. We're working together. This is a co-intersecting organism. I'm sure there's a better way to say that. But embracing all parts, and then embracing current, like embracing what is actually in front of me right now, embracing what is in my now moment, in my present. Embrace what is here, because if I'm still holding off what is here, holding it back, holding it at bay, trying to define it as something else, being dissatisfied with it, trying to make it something else, trying to see it as something else, I really am not letting the flow in of what is here for a reason. There's information, there's bliss. And for some people in different perspectives or different parts of their journey, that might be hard to say there's bliss in the present moment, because sometimes it certainly doesn't feel like it. But when I can elevate my perspective a little bit, and for me, certainly it doesn't feel like that. But when I can elevate my perspective a little bit, I, for some reason, am able to allow in the experience of it. If I'm open to it, it ends up showing itself to me. And so if I can embrace my current circumstance with any amount of gratitude, even if it's not exactly what I had in mind or expected, if I can suspend my expectations for just a little bit and embrace what's in front of me with gratitude, open and set the intention that I want to see. I want to be grateful for this moment. So could I just be open to it? It shows itself every time. Sidebar example. There was one day where everybody was just wired. My kids, my husband, we were all just wired. We were in a wiry mood. It was a weird day. People were taxed. They were tired. They were frustrated. There was just fighting every 5 minutes between my kids. It just seemed like one of those days that you're like, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock, but I could go to bed right now. I'm going to my room. Everybody leave me alone. And I went out in my backyard and I sat down and I just started crying. And I just sat there and let the pressure, just the hot, steamy tears roll down my face and just let it out. And I said, I'm so mad right now. I'm so frustrated. I don't want to be spinning in this. I don't want to be feeling this. I'm hot and sticky and irritated. And God, I don't want this. And I slowly came to, well, what do I want? I'm like, space. I know gratitude. Okay, gratitude. Yes. Can't think of something I'm grateful for in this moment because I'm so annoyed. I just kept sitting with it, and I'm like, but I want to be shown gratitude. I love that feeling so much more. So maybe I could have both. Maybe like the soft serve swirl, chocolate and vanilla, I can have both my irritation and my gratitude. Can I hold both? Am I big enough to hold both? Well, there's no rules saying I can't. So I started to become more and more open to gratitude. And I was overwhelmed in the moment that my crying and frustration switched to tears of gratitude, because in that moment I was so thankful for being able to even have the children I have. I realized how lucky I am to even be parenting, let alone in a moment of parenting chaos. And that was one of the most profound moments of flipping frustration into gratitude. And I just couldn't believe it. I felt like this can't be this easy. Not to say that it's easy, because it was energetic shifting. It did take me slowing everything down and absolutely surrendering to that moment to be able to flip. But once I did, I couldn't believe that the gratitude felt so real. It wasn't a fake gratitude. It wasn't, yeah, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that, I'm saying my, I'm making my gratitude list and rhyming it off for the sake of doing it. It was actual, real gratitude from the root up. And it was really, really, really incredible to learn that I have that capability, even in a moment where I felt so overwhelmed. And so I think those are some things that help us start to live a life that feels a little bit more natural, a little bit more true, a little bit more going with the flow, all the while dancing your dance steps and, getting to choose and getting to make pivots and choices. And so it's such a beautiful interplay and dance of whatever your individual soul is looking to express and sing in concert with the universe and life around you and the people around you. And when you can expand because the foundation feels more steady, because there's a healthy amount of self-love in there, because there's self-acceptance or self-trust, and then there becomes this ability to trust others. Learning to love ourselves is so incredible. And as hokey as it might sound, or as buzzy as it might sound, because it's everywhere, it really is a truth. Like a really thick layer of self-love is the best medicine. And so self-love, the world is your oyster. These are concepts that have been really coming up in this past month. It's funny, I've been painting oyster shells just for creative outlet, and I've been enjoying it so much. And my kids are like, "Oh, I like that one," and my husband likes them, and then what are we gonna do with them? And I made a joke that they're crystal slippers. You put your little crystals in them. And the world is your oyster has been coming up everywhere, kind of like when you buy a car and you see that car everywhere. So I'm starting to hear it more places, like ever than I have in my life. It's not just, I'm noticing it and therefore it's now in my awareness more. It's truly feels as though my awareness of it and my connection to it is increasing the instances that it is popping up. Not just this is the same amount that will be showing up anyway. No. It's like increased. And it's funny because it just keeps reminding me of the conscious co-creative aspect of this, the conscious evolution aspect, the fact that I do have choice, but at the same time that I'm held, that it can be this beautiful feeling. Because when I think about an oyster in a shell, it just gives me the smoothest silky river feeling when I think about it. And I like that. Somebody asked me once about my wake up schedule, my routine. I described it. Sometimes I like to stay in bed a little bit, like a pearl in my oyster. And I just, when you say something and sometimes it feels so very true. And you're like, you know what? I like the way that was described. There was no self-admonishment in there. And so when we agree to this conscious evolution, it's like the dance begins and the great game is in play. And we start to see life lighter, and we start to feel as though we are in this partnership. We're in this partnership, only we're in this partnership into the level that we can accept that we are all one. Like perhaps you feel like, I'm in this partnership with God, however you see God. I'm in this partnership with Source, however you see Source. I'm in this partnership with the universe, whatever feels good for you to say. Sometimes I think of it as I'm in this partnership, this divine dance with every expression of Source. It's kind of like when I was describing a few episodes back about my Thursday routine, and I just dance with everybody on a Thursday. It feels like I'm playing this beautiful ping pong match or this dance with everybody I meet, because I'm in the energy of like sweetness, and they come and meet me where I'm at. Like we have these beautiful conversations, and they're fun and they're interesting and they're exciting and they're funny and they're enriching. And in those days, I'm really affirmed like that I'm connecting with that person's source light. Like I'm not just connecting with the person, I'm connecting with the soul of who they are. I'm connecting with God expressing itself through this human being. And then it's a little easier if I get cut off by somebody in their car to also see that as God expressing itself through this being, and this is just the way the being contorts their vessel to allow the energy through. The energy is coming through regardless, and this is the way their vessel takes that energy and spits it out through the machine. And so understanding that life is this like chess game, and that we choose to go back and forth, we then can sort of fall into this other understanding around this being a mirror experience. And when we become conscious, we can start to see how our experience mirrors back to us information, vital information, once we are conscious. When we're not conscious, it's harder to determine what the messages mean, or we're not even looking for them, right? So if we think, well, I was a kid when this happened, how could I be calling that in? How could I be mirroring that in for myself? I'm still working through what that means, but I think that this is more a tool for when you realize it's here and you're conscious of it, you can use it as information. And sometimes when you're doing something that doesn't feel good, it doesn't mean that you're not good and what you're putting out there is not good. It just might mean that you're putting it in the wrong place, because as it comes back to you, it's a little distorted. And then you start to pull back your energy a little bit and rethink about where you reinvest it, or where you invest your energy, how you invest it. In the beginning, it might come back and you might think, oh, this energy came back crunchy. Perhaps I should people please a little bit more. And then you start to think, oh, well, maybe it's not about the people pleasing. Once you start to trust yourself a bit more, your choices, your decisions, your voice, your actions, your heart, you start to realize, oh, it's not really about blaming myself all the time. This could be more nuanced. There could be more information here, not just simply bad feeling, bad me, right? And so I just think that this game becomes more nuanced. The information becomes more symbolic. We get to enjoy things on a conceptual level. We start to notice patterns and archetypes, and we can decide to release certain patterns. In some aspects, we talk about taking back our power and connecting to our soul. And again, we're always connected to our power. We're always connected to our soul. But sometimes we divert that power. Sometimes we turn down the volume of that connection to our soul. And in many ways, we can, I guess, cut ourselves off from that experience. But when we come back in and we listen and we meditate and we allow ourselves to attune to the more subtle aspects of these patterns, we can start to notice which patterns were never ours to begin with, which ones we took on for survival, which ones we took on to please others, which ones we took on that were only meant to be a program for a short while or a pattern for a short while. It's no longer serving us. We begin to deprogram. We begin to choose different things. The energy, as I said, comes through us. The energy of evolution is happening. We can spiral up with that energy. And sometimes if we've got too much baggage, too many stories, too many programs pinning us down in different areas, we end up having that energy come through us and we just spin in a loop over and over again, because the energy doesn't stop. It's just how we use it. Just how weighed down are we by other things. And when we release the things that weigh us down, and we release the programs that the energy pushes through, and we start to spiral up and experience more and new and exciting. And so, reflecting on the first 6 episodes, man, they were jam-packed. I went back and listened to them, and I was so excited to offer so much information. And the pace was incredible. If you even compare this one to that one, if you listen to just a portion of this one and then go back to my first and listen to it, wow, the energy is so completely different. But in those, I was giving this commentary and these metaphors. I was talking about using analogies. I was giving broad pictures, and then I was zooming in. I was flip-flopping between the macro and the micro, the macro and the micro, and trying to demonstrate at least how it felt for me, a little bit of like a yo-yo feeling of dipping in and out of it, surrendering and then trying to choose, trying to keep my hands on the wheel, white knuckling it, and then realizing I can surrender, and surrendering so much that I've completely let go and taken my foot off the gas as well. So all of these patterns sort of came through with this co-creative process. And kind of like when you're learning to drive a standard car, for those of you who've had that experience, learning a clutch is a really interesting thing. Stalling out is very interesting. And I believe that that's what this journey sort of becomes as you become conscious, hey, I'm driving this vehicle. Oh my goodness, there's a lot more functionality than I ever realized there was. Oh wow, what do all these lights mean? What does it mean when this is the feeling that comes up? What does it mean when this is the emotion that comes into the car? What am I smelling? What is that? Oh my gosh, I'm out of gas. I've done this to myself so many times. I've committed to something, I'm there, and I've run out of gas. I've run out of steam. And so I think when we first wake up to all these levels of functioning we didn't realize were part of the game, it can be a little bit freaky. Or we can think, I don't know how to manage this highly sophisticated body vehicle that I've been given, that also has a mind that is highly sophisticated and evolved, that carries programs and subconscious programmings. And holy smokes, this is all, I'm sitting in the control board, I'm sitting in the control room of this, and there's buttons everywhere, and oh my goodness. I like the movie Inside Out. I think it really helps give that visual. And so we arrive at this place of, I'm entrusted with this. I'm responsible for all the decisions that come through this vehicle, that come through this personality, that interact with the outside world. Holy smokes. And I understand this series has been pretty individual focused. And that's purposeful, because I believe that once we have an intimate understanding of our experience with ourselves, what we have to offer the world, and how we can show up for the world, and the way we can direct our energy in the world is more aligned, and we're singing the note we're meant to, and we naturally embody this at a level that it can't help but help other people, even if it's just by them seeing that we're fully loving ourselves and trying our best. I believe that once you've reached this level of self-love and self-compassion, that it's only natural that it gets extended to other people. So I don't believe that, once you reach a certain level of healing, that you go out and you create more intentional chaos for others to heal. I think you go out and you embody healing. And so now I trust my voice, I trust my heart, I trust my vibration, I trust my energy, I trust myself enough to go out into the world and make waves and receive the ripples that come back my way because of it. I trust what I've sent out, I will receive, and I'm excited to see what comes back to me, because I'm sitting in integrity with what I send out. And I've learned how to accept what is. I've learned how to go through the work. I've learned how to go through the unraveling. I've learned how to go through the deprogramming. It's all part of the tapestry. But I can tell you, in the earlier stages, it felt horrible. And I had a lot of cultural criticism in terms of why is this place so horrible? Why is this place like this? Why are so many people hurting? And game theory, I don't even know if that's the right terminology, but seeing this more like a game, being able to zoom out, being able to feel into the world being better, being able to ask to be shown what I can be grateful for in this world, has really helped me shift back a bit and be a little more at ease with the world I'm living in. Kind of like, when you're playing Mario Brothers and you go through that one dark world where there's fire everywhere and it's dark, and you're playing that game and I'm not moving my guy forward until I know why this is here. I don't want this here. I don't want this flame world. I don't want this world. I don't want these things coming at me. I don't want this, spiky turtle tortoise guy coming towards me. We don't get that when we're playing a game. So I'm not being so crass to compare this completely, but there is an elevated perspective that we get where we can experience these epiphanies and this coalescence and this trust, and see the divinity of what we're living through. And we can nurture our own optimism. We can see where our hopefulness and our optimism is creating more space in our experience to appreciate what is. And what used to take 10 knocks at the door, knocking the door down, somehow we've been able to create enough space to hear our intuition. And maybe we only need 1 knock at the door, 2 knocks at the door. Or maybe we can even have the intuition that somebody's coming up the driveway before they even approach the door. I mean, isn't that incredible when we understand our vehicle and we can hear the signals and signs and we can read our energy to the point where we're almost psychic or clairvoyant, which I believe for another episode, that's where we're going. So when we take our lessons standing up as opposed to in the fetal position, because we can handle it and we know we can handle it, and we don't get knocked off balance as easily, and we remember that we're allowed our human experience. So whatever knocks us off, whenever we get knocked off, whatever happens, it's all okay. And we remember to apply that for others as well. Whatever their human experience is, whatever their lessons are, that's okay. Whether they've learned the things that you've learned or not, that's okay. You can't force it on people. We're sovereign beings. We're here because this is a free will experience. We're here in our free will experiencing it, whether we remember this or not. And I think many of us forget this. And then we also forget that we forgot this. And so it's beautiful when we can hold this perspective, because we offer compassion to others and allow them their experience without thinking that their experience needs to resemble ours, or that they should be further along than they are, or that, they should know what they don't know yet. Because that's one thing I also learned is I don't know what I don't know until I know it, and that's okay. And so this is why I love humanity, because I'm starting to notice all the beautiful things about this individuality. And when the pressure is taken off to be perfect, and the pressure is taken off for other people to be perfect, you start to see, oddly enough, the perfection of what is. And so these are all really wonderful epiphanies and aha moments that I've had while unifying my experience, while moving into acceptance, while moving out of duality of bad and good all the time, while trusting that what's coming up in my experience is meant for me to relish or, sink my teeth into. This is my homecoming. And the beautiful thing about homecoming is that you realize you're always already here. Perhaps you were just distracted or in pain or just not noticing it. It's the weirdest thing. It's like you return home from a journey to realize that you've already been home, but now that you've returned, it's slightly lighter and slightly sweeter and a little bit more beautiful and less pressured and more enjoyable. And so that's what has unraveled for me in this experience. And it has been a wonderful experience. And I'm learning that it is a circle where you come back to yourself in full knowing that you never really left, and that it will feel like you're leaving and embarking on yet another journey, likely after this, but this time with your soul and with your spirit, with your guides, however you see this, with your internal versions, your inner child, your inner teen. But you go with joy, and you go with expansion, and you go with your beliefs and your knowing. You go with your connection to source. You go with your knowing of who you are in truth, ultimately, and you walk the life out with home inside of you, with your spark inside of you, wherever you go. And you know this. It's not that you just hope this. You know this. You feel this. You've embodied it. You've integrated it. It is, you are in your integrity and you have integrated it. This is your truth. This is the knowing, the gnosis, the Gnosis, gnosis. You know this, that the world is truly your oyster. And so I hope you find your rapturous love affair with your life. I hope you get to make a list of what fills your cup. I hope you get to love being just for the sake of being. And I hope you get to trust yourself fully. And here are some things to remember on your journey. Remember that you are now consciously responsible for you once you awaken to this. And that's in the beginning daunting, but opens up into something so incredible. the more that opens up, the better it feels. You are your parent, your child, your teen, and your higher self. And you're in a state of continual becoming as you get to integrate these aspects, as you get to unfold into your higher self, as you get to pull it in. You are always connected to your truth, your intuition. You may temporarily forget or become distracted or externalize it or outsource it or look to the outside more than you're looking to the inside, but you are always connected to your truth and your intuition. The mind doesn't always tell you the truth. Your higher mind helps you discern truth with your heart, your body, and your intuition, but the mind does not always tell the truth. Remember to love yourself. Being in love with yourself is such a gift. And be in love with yourself so that you can love the rest of us for exactly who we are. True love is unconditional. It really is. And you'll find it. If you're open to it, you will find it. If you give it out, you will find it. You can't help but attract it once you are it. And remember that love is free. You can give it. You can give it freely. It is free. It is an unlimited resource. Love is the answer. It actually is. Remember that kindness is not wasted. Never, ever, 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 ever. Even things that are frustrating, angering, or shouldn't be there. Adding more frustration, anger, or upset towards it might feel good at the moment, but truly, only love transmutes and heals. You will always be able to trust again. If you believe you can, you can. Trust is just a matter of choosing and being with it. And honor your journey, yourself, your past. Final reminder, celebration is important. It is a crucial aspect. You can't move on to the next thing if you haven't celebrated what is. It's like acceptance, but with more joy and fun. Celebration is an actual gift that really should not be skipped. It should not be numbed to. It's not about, procedure, and it's all you celebrate in a way that feels authentic and aligned for you, and feel it in every single cell. Make sure you stay in that moment. Align with the mind of peace rather than the mind of chaos. And remember that the sky is not even the limit. So I want to leave you with a poem, one of my favorite poems, but I also want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this series, to listen to this episode, to listen to whatever amount of this that you did. I appreciate that so much. I appreciate you connecting with me. I appreciate what you're going through. I appreciate that if you found this and you've been interested in it, that you're trying to transform for the better, and you're trying to find that for yourself, that trust and that love. And so here's the poem. It's by Kurt Vonnegut. My cousin showed him to me, and I've just been in love with this poem for probably more than 10 years now. I've reminded myself of this frequently. Be soft. Do not let the world make you hard. Do not let pain make you hate. Do not let the bitterness steal your sweetness. Take pride that even though the rest of the world may disagree, you still believe it to be a beautiful place. Thank you so much. Be well.